I would like to invite our En Habsor panelists, Dr. Yiftach Gepner, Colonel Olon Volozny from Ein Hasbor, and the panel moderator Ori Argov. Dr. Yiftach Gepner is a professor at Tel Aviv University School of Medicine. He has resided in En Habsor since its establishment in 1982, following the signing of the peace agreement with Egypt. On the morning of the Hamas terror attack on Israel on October 7th, Yiftach bravely confronted the Hamas terrorists alongside 78 other members of his community alert squad. Colonel Alon Volozny has been a resident of En Habsor since 2010. He sustained injuries in 2014 during Israel's Protective Edge operation. During Iron Sword, Alon played a crucial role as a member of the emergency team responsible for managing En Habsor community. Subsequently, he joined the reserve forces of his unit to actively participate as an IDF soldier protecting his country in the war against Hamas. Ori Argov resides in Orlando and is a devoted supporter of En Habsor. As soon as he heard about the Hamas attack, he flew to Israel to stand by the En Habsor community. For several weeks, he provided both financial and mental support to people of En Habsor. Ori is a private pilot and has been flying and accompanying Yiftach and Alon across the US to share their stories and secure support for the region's community. Please join me in welcoming Yiftach, Alon, and Ori.
Thank you so much for coming. This is so encouraging and exciting. And thank you, Nazim, so much. It's so so powerful. I would like to set the stage in a way, kind of with three different pieces. One, I want to make a statement, and I believe that we will all agree that making an opinion without having the facts is kind of a little bit extreme and maybe even radical. And we're dealing with that nowadays. We have to deal with opinions that have no facts base. Second thing, I want to tell you a little kind of urban legend. Danny Gillerman was an Israeli ambassador for the United Nations a couple of years ago, and just before he had to give a speech in front of the General Assembly, he told all the ambassadors that he would like to set the stage. He said, I would like to set the stage with a story about Moses. So Moses, when he was very old, just came down from Mount Nebo where he saw the land and he realized that he's not going to reach it. He found a pond in the middle of that desert, and he wanted to get himself refreshed. So he took off his clothes, folded them neatly, put under a rock, and jumped into the water. When he finished, when he went out of the pond, he didn't find his clothes. So he cursed and said, oh, those damn Palestinians. At that point, all the ambassadors in the General Assembly, especially those from Arab countries, jumped and said, there were no Palestinians at that time. Said, okay, now I set the stage and now I can start talking. Because in Berkeley right now, I'm sure that you heard that in Berkeley some people claim that Jesus was Palestinian. So we have to deal with that, speaking about opinions and facts. The third thing I want to do in maybe 2-3 minutes is to put the context, the historical context, into what we're going to talk about today. And I want to say that Nazim mentioned Jerusalem 3,000 years. So 3,000 years ago, King David conquered Jerusalem with his military and people. And it was the Jewish capital for a long time. General Pompeius, at the year 63 BC, conquered Jerusalem and conquered the land, but he didn't change the name of the land. In fact, some people in Rome called it Ilia Capitolina, but most of the time it was called still Judea, as it used for over 1,000 years. And then the Romans destroyed the temple the year 70. And when they destroyed the temple, they didn't change the name. And the first time that the name Jerusalem and Judea was changed was in the year 135, after rebels led by a general named Bar Kokhba lost to Emperor Adrian. And Emperor Adrian was so angry at those Jews that he said, no more Hebrew, speaking and studying, talking and using. And I'm going to call this land a new name. And he called it Palestina. Why did he do that? Because from history, he knew that over 1,000 years ago, there were Philistines, people that came from beyond the seas, from Greece today, from Phoenicia. And they were settled along the coastal land, especially the south part of the coastal land, which part of it is Gaza Strip today. They were called Philistines. You know what happened to the Philistines? They were defeated by David. And many of them were converted to Judaism by David. David was kind of a strong guy. So I believe that the three of us might have some Palestinian blood in us. Fast forward, the Romans started to call it Palestina, but the Romans left, and the Byzantines, the Eastern Empire, came in, and they took over, and they stopped calling it Palestina. They went back to Ilia Capitolina, and sometimes there was no name for the land because they were there, but not really. And then they left. And who was staying there? A couple of tens of thousands of Jews that were not deported by Emperor Adrian, up until the first Muslims arrived in the 7th century. And when they arrived, and you can check on that with lots of history, historical scriptures that were found along the years. When they arrived to Jerusalem, they were asking, what is this place? Most of the people that were living in Jerusalem at that time were Jews. So the Jews say, this is Yerushalayim HaKdosha, Holy Jerusalem. How would it sound in Arabic? Or Shalim el-Quds. So the Arabs calling today, in short, Jerusalem, they call it Quds. From Hebrew, Kadosh. And they went up to the mountain. It was still lots of destructions because nobody cleaned the place after the destruction of the temple a couple of centuries before. So they were asking, what is this place? And the Jews said, this is the place of the slaughter, because Abraham was about to slaughter his son Isaac on that mountain. How do you say slaughter in Hebrew? Akedah. So they called the mosque that they built Aqsa, the Aqsa Mosque, from the Hebrew word Akedah. So this is the base. Moving forward, the Muslims left. They didn't find anything interesting over there. And the Crusaders, the year 1099, came in. And they started building all over the place. They destroyed a lot of what they found, and they built whatever they wanted to build. For 200 years, up until the Mamluks from Egypt, Muslims from Egypt came in, they kicked out the Crusaders, and they destroyed everything and left. Nobody called it anything. Up until the Ottomans, the Turks came on the 17th century, and for 400 years they called the place Peha number 3, the region number 3 in our kingdom. The problem started again semantically with General Allenby. General Allenby, a British general that was leading the forces 1917 in the First World War, where the British Army took over the land from the Turks, the Ottomans. And he was an historian, and he remembered that some 2,000 years ago, this place was called Palestina. So he called it Palestina, Palestine. I'm going 30 years backwards, 1882. The first Zionist movement to make Aliyah to Israel. The name of this group from Russia and Ukraine was called Bilu. And when they started migrating to Israel, they found out that there were about 110,000 Jews that never left for generations, and about 150,000 Arabs. Some of them Muslims, some of them Bedouins at that time without real faith, nomads. And they started building those settlements, moshavot as we call them, and prosperity started, they created prosperity, so people started coming, Arabs from beyond the river, from Jordan today, from Syria today, Lebanon, Egypt started moving in as well, together with the Jews, because prosperity was there. So, at the end of that cycle, at the end of that circle, what did we have? We have migration coming from both sides. But the history is not told anymore like that. The history is told that Palestinians were there for ages, for centuries. And this is not the truth. And the final fact for that is that if you look at the family names of most families of Palestinians today in Israel, a lot of evolution took place and names were changed in a way. But if you go deep into their history, you will say that they're either called Halabi, which means they came from Halab in Syria, or Masri, which means they came from Egypt. And that's a lot of the last names in Gaza today are like that. Yes, there are refugees. And yes, Palestinians are a nation because they decided and they have the right to decide about it. But for the context, history need to be told. So now we'll move on to the guys. We'll start with a short video and then. So Dr. Gebner, take us to those next couple of, I would say those 2 hours basically. You're running with a rock to the fence. Your brother is one of 4 people that have a rifle, and he's in the gate.
So, yeah, I left the family. I went to the gate. He gave me a call. I got shot in my shoulder. So he was the only one with a 1M16, one rifle in front of tens of Hamas terrorists. And I drove him to the back gate. We went to the hospital, and on the way there, right when we got on the main road to the hospital, they started a massive shooting on the car with the motorcycles. And,
how many? How many terrorists?
About 30, with the automatic machine guns, and
so bullets flying all over.
All over, windows are exploding,
and what do you
smokes. Trying to save our life.
Which car did you go with?
So I had a Tesla, and
so that was the first Tesla involving a terrorist attack in the world.
Absolutely. I always say that Tesla was a good buying choice in my life. It's actually the choice that saved my life, because we went in reverse in like 40 miles per hour, was few of motorcycles trying to catch us and kill us. And luckily we managed, thanks God. And
you got back to the village?
We got back to the village.
And your brother is bleeding because he got shot even further.
Several bullets in his body. He was screaming. The cars were like full of smoke right before. The battery was leaking all over. And right when we got back to the village, the battery died.
What did you do then?
So he was bleeding, as you can see in the photo here. And luckily we managed to get an ambulance.
It was the village ambulance that was...
No, it was ambulance that was here, and coincidentally the driver wasn't there, so we found a way. We found a way to get an ambulance.
Okay.
Again, we know how to solve problem. We're trying to, and we managed to take him to the hospital. And right before he got to his shock, we got into the ER, and he's okay right now.
How fast did you manage to get to the hospital?
It took about 2 hours off-road driving,
all
escaping from pickups, and they were being all over. I mean, 3,000 came to our hometown to murder our kids. I mean,
what would happen if they would not be stopped by volunteers and by you guys, by civilians living in those villages?
They would kill us all.
A massacre.
A massacre.
Genocide.
Absolutely.
There was nothing between them and the rest of the country other than you guys?
You know, one of the pickup that trying to kill us, they found a map of one of the Air Force bases. They knew exactly where to go.
They got all the intelligence.
They got all the intelligence.
They were ready.
To kill us all.
What did you see in the hospital when you arrived over there?
So we were one of the first to get at the hospital, to Soroka Medical Center. And we went to the ER and went to do some imaging and all the ER treatment. When we realized there's no chance he would have a surgery that morning, we went down to the ER again to get an ambulance to go to a different hospital. Like the floor of the ER was like red. There was people like dying, screaming all over.
What do we see here on the picture, the left side?
just to give you how God was with us that morning, this is the bladder on the left side with a bullet, one of the bullets that came into my brother's belly. If that bullet get into the bladder, as a physician I can tell you, it wouldn't survive. Just see how close was with that. That the bullet actually didn't get into the bladder, but the heat of the bullet melted the fascia. There was a small leak, but not an amount that he would die. So he survived.
How is he doing now?
He's strong. He's ready to protect our village again, walking with the rifles. And
basically at that gate, at that morning, I think 7:52, he basically alone managed to hold the first attack on the village to prevent it from being another Be'eri or another Niroz, right?
yeah, nobody died or kidnapped in Absor.
Yeah.
But just to mention, we're not hero than any other village. I mean, God was with us. We had the people that react fast enough, but many other didn't. I personally, my kids, my wife, we lost so many good friends. Alone, my 10-year-old boy lost his basketball coach and his good friend. My daughter, many teachers.
2 teachers from the school.
And Colonel, how many hours your kids were in the safe room until they could leave it?
More than 13 hours.
So during those 13 hours, WhatsApp messages are coming in from people that are pretty much being butchered to your kids.
Yeah, all the time. Messages on messages, pictures, GPS point that try to send me where the kids, the other kids, their friends.
Or they need support and help.
Yeah.
So that takes us to the next couple of days and weeks. The IDF is blamed right now for killing civilians, innocents. The Palestinians, the Hamas are claiming that the IDF killed more than 30,000 people so far. What's the reality here?
I think there's like Asim said, there's a lot of facts. 30,000. Can you tell me, is the 30,000 are innocent? Someone saw them? Every apartment that we went in Gaza, we saw equipment that belonged to Be'eri, Niroz, other innocent. We saw ammunition, we saw rifles in kindergarten, in school, missile launchers inside the UN places in UNRWA. We saw it, I saw it. It's booby traps. It's every apartment that we enter in Gaza, we find something behind kids' beds, hiding. It's unbelievable. Tunnels, hundreds of kilometers of tunnels that connect every apartment in Gaza. It's unbelievable. Huge. So you're talking about 30,000 or other number. The IDF, I think, is the most humanitarian army in the world. Every decision that we have to take to attack some place in Gaza, we have a legal counsel, specialist, that's taking a position and looking if it's okay not to hurt person that is not in battle with us. But can you tell me, if he make a shot and throw the rifle aside, put close of a civilian, or if he stands behind a civilian, the civilian is what? Is a shield. Is he not involved? I don't know. But what would you do if someone shooting at you behind the civilian.
And,
You say that.
and the 30,000 people that they claim, that the IDF killed, how many of them held a gun when they were killed?
A lot of them. But there's a soldier of the IDF that kills these days. What hits them?
So-
How do they kill? So there's a fight there. Someone is shooting on us. So we respond, and you respond, okay. We respond on terrorists that try to kill us. That's all.
And Dr. Gepner, when you came back from the hospital, your brother stayed in the hospital into a couple of surgeries. You came back and you didn't find your family at the village.
I haven't seen my family for a long time.
How long didn't you see them?
About
from
2 weeks.
That day, 2 weeks.
Yeah, I want to give you the feeling. When I left them at 6:30 in the morning, with my shoes without socks, with the shirts, and a rock in my hand, they got photos with a car full of bullets and blood, and I wouldn't be able to talk to them for a long time.
And the only thing that they knew when they had to leave was that the Tesla is
Full of bullets.
full of bullets and blood.
And blood, and
Dad
they
is
know.
not there.
That's true.
And uncle is not there. So where did they go? What happened to your family, Colonel, to your family, Doctor?
So we managed to rescue the entire or most of the civilians in Absor, and not only where we live, the entire region. And as you can see here, we took them to the southest city in Israel, Eilat, which was at the beginning relatively safe,
Was it safe?
just for the first week, and then
Why?
the Yemens, the Houthis start sending
They
rockets.
started shooting a lot because the people from
My kids that been in such a trauma moved to other city, and they're still under missile attacks from.
now, if I'm correct, you guys got into a couple of places initially before you got to Eilat. Some places were without roofs and all kind of places. Eventually, you found yourself in a hotel, decent hotel in Eilat, but the hotel at a certain point wanted to kick you out.
Just the fact that being hotel sounds great for all of us, right? We're going to do holidays in hotel.
In a
but-
resort.
in a resort. But when you're staying 5 people in 200 square foot rooms for weeks, that's become to be nightmare. I mean, the level of stress, you can see here my son, he's at 10 years old, but because of the stress, because of the trauma, he went to the ER because he cannot breathe, he cannot sleep, he cannot eat. My daughter, on the left side, she's 13, Ella. And what you see here, there's the photo of one of her best friends that got the release from being hostage, 13 years old boy. When they come kidnap him, he said, "Don't take me, I'm too young. I'm not part of it." We don't want them to suffer. We want them to have a good life. They want to kill us all.
Now back to the hotel. You had 2, 3 washing machines for
900 people.
900 people, some long lines, and then the hotel said that you didn't pay.
At some point, the hotel asked us, okay, if you're not going to pay, we cannot hold you for long. We had a few laundry machine people used to wake up like 4 a.m. to take their clothes clean.
And the government was busy and still busy with Gaza, so you were depending on good people just to.
On our own, as you see here, like CityServe and other organizations, and you guys. I mean, talking to you, and one of the reasons we are here is A, to spread the truth, the facts, and B, to say we need help. We need help. We need to take care of our kids. We want to bring them back home. We want them to have a mental support. We want them to have a safe place they can meet and get together.
And Colonel, you have big family all over because there are some of them are in the kibbutz, some of them from End Up. So your kids, what did they do in that hotel? What did they go? Did they study somehow?
After 1 month, we able to open schools, but it's not really a school.
In the hotel, you mean?
In the hotel, yeah. My older daughter decided that she doesn't want to do the exams of
Final exams?
final exams. So they decided the entire kids that they want to be together. So they create some
A body of kids?
a body of kids and wrote to the minister.
The
And then-
Minister of
Education.
Education.
And then they open some
An alternative.
an alternative education near En Gedi. It's near the Dead Sea. So they only want to be together. That is the only reason they want to do now things is to be together.
And the drive was by the kids.
Yeah, absolutely, by the kids.
Did they have any computers, any notebooks?
Nothing. Everything is collect from here and there.
So, and then CityServe, I think, jumped in and
And CityServe and other like good people like you made us able to create an alternative education system. The fact we succeed to protect and to stop them on October 7 gave us the strength to help the other in the region. So we are trying to rebuild, to rebirth our region. If we will not rebirth our region, there's not going to be Israel. The big win of this war will be for us to come back home.
And what's going on right now? How many villages, how many civilians from the villages, I think 55 villages all around Gaza, how many of those are back?
To En Absor,
Out of everybody.
the entire region.
Yeah.
We are talking about En Absor is a beacon. It's sort of a torch, and we're talking about 60% of our citizens that came back home. I think it's because of our work that we show them the way, come back. And if you're talking about the entire region, we're talking about 40%. And we are trying with a lot of effort to bring them back home. Not only them, but all our kidnaps and others. Bring them back home.
And where do you see the future, the next year, the next 5 years?
So we realized in order to come back home, many people have concerns. Those that didn't come back home are afraid. And we must build a better and a safer region. And when I say better, I mean like here, and a better fence and camera system that will protect us in case in the future. We need a safe elderly club, like shelter club, that people get together. People doesn't want to come back home when they're afraid and isolated in their home. And the reason we are here is to tell you guys, we will win this war. There is no even other question. But we need your help. We need your help. There is a QR code outside and all over here that will help us bring the hostages back, bring our friends back home, make us a better place, make a better region for the people that live in En Absor and the 55 other villages. And just want to say thank you all for coming tonight.
Yeah. And I would like to summarize. I want you guys to understand that the last thing we like to do is to ask for support and aid. We need two types of support. We definitely needed financial support because so far the support that was given was great, but it was not yet enough. And then the second support that I think these heroes, literally heroes, need is legitimacy, is the ability. Each one of you, I believe, know people that are not so supportive, either our friends, family members, or even just people that you know in your communities that say from the river to the sea, and I'm not going even to continue, while many of them don't even know which river and what sea. And we don't have any other choice but to stand up and to tell everybody the story, and this is how it is, this is the reality, these are the facts. So make your opinions according to the facts, and make sure that the Jewish nation is not going to suffer once again. Enough is enough.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
ממש תודה לכם. ממש תודה רבה.